Hi, Cutie Pies. It is Lanickia, and I am coming to you with season 2, episode 12 of The Equalizer, called Somewhere Over the Hudson. On a scale of 1 to 10, I have to give I really enjoyed this episode, so I would give it probably a 7.5. I don't want to give it might maybe an 8, between a 7.5 and an 8, because next week episode might be higher than that, so I don't want to give too much and then next week's be even better. But okay, y'all, so listen. So we see a man in a car, and he gets a call from this man called Vince, but he doesn't pick up. Now, Vince is over there slapping someone around, they're beating someone up. And we learn that the man in the car, his name is Bert, and he works for the mob. And so that's how we start off, because he throws his phone out. So we're like, okay, so he doesn't want to be caught by them, because he at first he just looks like a regular guy, just driving, enjoying music. Oh, I did that to you, y'all. It was great. And just enjoying, listening to the radio. But we find out he is not. So then we see, okay, so Robin is talking to Aunt Vi, and her partner canceled. I think they're playing a game similar to Spades. But anyway, they canceled. So, she was like, "Oh, I'm on this losing streak. I can't win for anything." So Robin is like, "Well, just why don't you just cancel with them and not show up, because she keeps losing to the other team, and she just doesn't seem like she enjoys it." She says, "No, I can't give them the satisfaction." So they talk D into going with Aunt Vi, and so she's like, "Okay, I'll go," or whatever. So that they do that. Um, so then we see that Robin meets with Bert, because he's called and gotten her assistance. And she's like, "You work for the mob? You were in the mob?" And she was like, "I can't help you." And he was like, "No, let me explain." So we find out that when he first took the job, he had no clue what they were doing. And then when he found out, it was like, "You can't just leave the mob." And he was like, "Then my mom was sick and I really needed the money, to help with her medical expenses." He said, "But now, my mom has died and it's been a year, and, he wants out, because he never wanted to really do this." And so he's talked to the feds to try to get out, but they're telling him, "You have to have this ledger that has all," because he's an accountant for the mob, "that has all the information or whatever." And he says he stopped to use the bathroom, and his car got stolen, and he put the ledger in the, hid it inside of the door of the car. And he's went to the FBI, and they told him, "We can't help you with no ledger. We can't help you." And he has to have it because he's trying to go into witness protection. And so now they have to find this car. So she decides to take a case, because she understands that there were circumstances that led him down this path. And so she takes the case, and we see Harry and Mel talking, and she's very nervous, because she says her best friend Shari does not know that Harry is alive, and she's about to tell her that Harry is alive. And he was like, "She's your best friend, she'll understand." And she was like, "No, she will not. Like, she was there for me, like really there for me these last 5 years, and she's gonna feel betrayed." Well, while they're talking, Robin calls, and Harry's like, "Okay, yeah, I can find this car." So they do find the car and everything, and they narrow it down to the guy who stole the car. Um, and so so they narrow it down to the guy who stole the car. And so when they're doing that, they find the car and everything, but they see the car has been actually stripped. Um, and so when they see the car stripped, the doors are missing, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die!" Like, I'm gonna die. And unfortunately from him, right when they find the car, they get shot at, and Robin protects him by putting him down on the ground. And he says, "Oh my gosh, they sent Vince and Lou. Those are the guys they see when they want to take you out or whatever." So they call Dante, and Dante tells them exactly who stole the car and everything. And they find out it was this young guy named Jackie. And so Robin meets with Jackie. So she goes and she finds Jackie, and she tells him She wants to buy parts, but she wants to deal with the person, his connect or whatever. And so Jackie's like, yeah, okay, sure. So, okay, then we break to Aunt Vi. And so they're playing and they're getting spanked. And Aunt Vi is like, oh gosh, I need a drink. You're like, I need to go get something to drink because they're at Aunt Vi's house. And so when she goes and does that, D goes with her, and D is like, Aunt Vi is like, see my losing streak. She said, you're doing well, I'm doing well, and we're still losing. And D is like, Aunt Vi, like they are cheating. Don't you see that she signals him when it's time to cut by, taking a sip and doing stuff with the glass and all that kind of stuff. And Aunt Vi was like, I knew it. I knew they were that good. I love that they put on D and Vi together, and it's this cute little storyline all the time with them. It's so cute. I like it. She was like, but I knew they weren't that good. So Vi is like, she was like, we're gonna go confront him. Like that's D, because she always down to confront somebody. And Vi was like, nah, we're gonna play this smart. We're gonna get him back. So then we see Robin meets Floyd. So Jackie takes her to meet Floyd or whatever, and Floyd is like, what are you, a fixer? And she was like, something like that. And he was like, okay, well, if you're a fixer, I can get you the parts. They're negotiating on the parts and they agree. He said, but I need a radio for this car I've been looking for. It's with Alonzo. So Jackie take them to Alonzo. And she's like, okay, we're going to get you that, and then you're going to sell us the door parts or whatever. So they go over there to meet Alonzo, and this man comes out with a gun, and Bert raises his hand. He's like, okay, but before that, while they were at the shop, there was a woman watering plants. Now, Bert knows a lot about plants because he wants to open a nursery. So he was telling her what was wrong, and he was just really nice to her, and we find out that that's Floyd's girlfriend, and he's a jerk to her or whatever. So now go backing. So they go to Alonzo's, right? Because they're trying to get this radio. And then Queen automatically knows this is a setup because Bert raised his hand and he's like, whoa, 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 we're just here to meet Alonzo. And she says, there is no Alonzo. This is a setup. And so then they show Floyd again, and he has the parts because if he's like, they got to want the parts for something. And he finds the ledger that was hidden in the door by Bert. And so they go back to the, chop shop place, or no, junkyard, where Robin and Bert are, and Jackie, and they say, okay, kill him or whatever. And so they hand tie him and stuff, and they say Jackie too. And Jackie's like, wait, what? And he said, yeah, Bert doesn't need you bringing this kind of heat to the shop. So Bert ordered Jackie to be killed too. So now Jackie's like, well, dang. So they put Jackie and Bert into the car, but Queen hasn't. I'm sorry, y'all, but Robin hasn't gotten into the car yet. And so she takes the men down or whatever, she takes the men down, and as they're putting them in the car, now they put them in the car to put on the machine to be crushed. And so the machine is running. She just hadn't got in yet. So the machine is running and she's taking the men down, and Bert's like, because the door is closed and they have their hands zip tied behind them so they can't open the door. So Bert is like, help, hurry up. And so she gets to them and she gets them out and everything. And Jackie is just like, oh my gosh, he was really gonna kill me. And so she tells Jackie, you come on, you need to help us. And he said, Floyd is gonna be upset or whatever, and I don't know where he is. He has a lot of spots. But she says, where's his cell phone? And he was like, he's not going to accept a call from me, or, he's not going to be accepting a call. She said, we don't need to. All we need to do is track it. So then we see, so then we go back to Aunt Vi, right? And so they're sitting at the table. They're coming back to the table, right? Because they're about to play again. But she says, oh, let me refresh these drinks. And she gathers them all up. And the woman was like, oh, wait, I wasn't done yet. And Aunt Vi said, oh, I'll get us some more drinks. And then D was like, oh, the drinks, the glasses are in the dishwasher. They're all dirty. And these, Aunt Vi was like, well, they wouldn't be dirty if somebody had washed them or whatever. And she was like, we can't drink out of these anymore. They're all mixed up, but it's okay. We can wait an hour. And so they sit down and start playing and stuff. So they don't have their little glasses so that they can cheat, and win against Aunt Vi and D. Um, okay. So Robin tracks Floyd, right? And she tells Bert and, Jackie, stay in the car. I'm gonna go inside. I'm gonna check, get this ledger from Floyd, because Jackie had told her if there's anything in that door that was in the car, Floyd has it now. Excuse me. So she goes in, right, and the door is already open. So, you could just see, like on the wall, the picture was all crooked. So you knew they had tossed the place. And so when she goes in there, sees Floyd is actually has a gunshot wound to the head, so he's dead. And so then she's like, oh, you tried to sell it to the mob. Oh, idiot. And so then they're like, we gotta. So Jackie comes running in. He's like, don't shoot, don't shoot. And she was like, what are you doing? I told you to stay in the car. He said, two men came running up and they got Bert. And she was like, who were they? What they look like? He said, I don't know. As soon as I saw him, I ran. Because Jackie's like 15. He's just a kid. He was like, as soon as I saw him, I ran. And she was like, okay. What about, she was like, what did they look like? Did you hear anything? What do you remember? And he said he called one, what did he say? He called one Vince. And so she's like, okay. So they go, so they're talking, and she's like, we need to find out where he has the ledger. And Jackie says, the only place I could think of is at the shop. He has a drawer and it's locked and he has the keys on him. So they're with Floyd's body. So they take the keys, and they were like, we can't go in there because of course they would know us and we're supposed to be dead. So they're like, how are we going to do it? And they say, okay, so next thing we see, they're at Ray's house, and they get ready to go. They convince her to help Bert, and they tell her, Bert, the guy who told you about the flowers. And she was like, yeah, the plants. And she was like, yeah. And they were like, if we don't get this ledger out of Floyd's office, Bert is dead. He's in trouble with some bad guys. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. I'll help you. Now, meanwhile, Bert is over there with Vince, and Bert is over there with Lou, and they're beating him up or whatever, but they stop when Robin calls, and she tells them, I have the ledger, give me a couple hours, and don't hurt him, don't kill him. And they like, you got 1 hour or we kill him or everything. Then the only way she made them stop also is by telling them she would go to the FBI, and they told her we got 1 hour. So that's why they rush over to Ray's to try to get her to go into the office. And she says, I'm not smart, because we saw early in the episode how Floyd would put her down because she knocked over something, and he was calling her stupid and all that. And so then Jackie was like, I'm smart. He was like, I'm smart, and he did it to me too. Like, Floyd made you think you needed him. He was nice to you and stuff, and he made you think you needed him, but you really didn't. So they convinced her to help. So she goes into Floyd's office, and she's messing with his desk. And she's like, one of the guys come in, and he says, what are you doing? And she says, Floyd asked me to get something. He told her nobody ever goes into Floyd's desk. And she said, it's important. Oh, what, he didn't tell you? And so then someone grabs his attention and says, hey, something's up with Floyd. So he leaves. And while he leaves, she hurry ups and goes through the desk or whatever. And then she runs out, and she gets in a car with Rob and them just in time as they coming out to try to get her. So now they have the ledger back. So then we see Harry. Okay, so Mel's friend comes to speak to her, and she's upset, because she's like, she tries to hook Mel up with her brother. I can't remember the brother's name. It started with a B too. But anyway, she tries to hook Mel up with her brother, and Mel's like, I don't want him. But she eventually tells her, because she brought the brother with her, and she tells her, wait, no. And so Harry comes out. She tells Harry to come out, and her friend gets so mad at her. and she just leaves. She's like, I can't believe you've been lying. Oh my God, Harry's alive. Like, she's in shock. She's upset. She's hurt, and she just leaves. So Harry goes and visits the friend, and he just tells her, she was protecting you. Like, nobody could know I was alive. Like, what the situation we had going on with the government, nobody could know. And so she was protecting you. And I know you're upset, but she loves you and all that. So she she tells Harry, okay, I gotta go. So Harry is there. She leaves Harry there, and then I'm just wrapping him up. And then the next thing we see, she goes to Mel, and she's telling Mel, make me a drink and make yourself a drink because I'm forgiving you and we're friends. And she said, I understand, I love you and I understand why you did what you had to do as far as lying to her about Harry being dead. And she said, I was trying to hook you up, my brother. And she was like, I thought your brother was married anyways. And she was like, he cheated on her. She was like, why would you try to hook me up with a man who's a cheater? She's like, I just wanted to be sisters. And she said, we're sisters without us being, me marrying your brother. And so, she told Mel, Harry really loves you and everything. And so it was just a nice, a sweet little story. Um, okay, so now we go back and Jackie comes in. Go back to Bert. So Jackie goes in and he's like, okay, here's the ledger. And they're like, okay, let Bert go. He's like, let Bert go and you can have the ledger. And they were like, how about we shoot you in your face and just take the ledger? He was like, my bad, just take the ledger. So they opened the ledger up and they were like, what is this? And he said, the diversion. And so Robin comes up behind the men and she tells them, Jackie, get the guns. And so Jackie gets their guns or whatever. And they wrap, the Tyler men up, and Ray comes in with the ledger, and they tell him how Ray went and got the ledger and everything for him. They tell Bert that, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, you did that for me," and she was like, "You were just so sweet." He was just nice to her. And so then the men are like, she was like, it's over. And they were like, this is not over. And so we look outside and it's Vince and all, he brought a bunch of men with him. And Robin was like, we got trouble. And so she takes Bert and Ray and she puts them in the room and says, stay here. I will come back for you. You'll be safe in here. And they were like, what are you going to do? And she was like, my job. And I was like, okay, Robin. So then she goes out and I'm like, where is Jackie? So Jackie goes to the light switch and she says, Jackie now. And he makes it dark. And so she went to taking care of all the men or whatever because it was dark, but she could see. So she took care of the men and everything. And then she said, Jackie, Jackie. And he turns back on the lights and he was like, is that all of them? And she says, Romano is missing. Which is the head of the head person who Vince and Lou were working for. She was like, Romano is missing. So they go and when the lights go off and they hear all the gunshots, they hear all the, fighting and everything, and the lights come back on, Bert is like, okay, everything is cool, let's go. So he goes out of the closet, y'all, and Romano says, hey, and Romano aims and he shoots at him, but Bert steps in the way of Ray, and he has the ledger in his arms, and he steps in the way, and he shoots him 3 times, and he was about to shoot Ray because Bert went down. And he was about to shoot Ray, and Robin shot him actually before he could do it. But Bert is okay because we find out that the ledger is thick as crap, and the sorry, I heard a noise. I think that's the disposal, but we find out the ledger was thick as, and it was made out of something because it took 3 bullets. But Bert is okay. But when she thought he was dead, and Ray was just like, oh my gosh, he's such a good man. And he was so brave. And he was like, she really was like, he was such a good person. I'm sad to see this or whatever, but he's okay. And he was like, you think I'm a good person? And she was like, yeah. So then the next scene we see, like, the FBI's come and he gives them the ledger and he's going into witness protection. And Robin is just talking to Jackie, and she was like, it feels good to do the right thing. And he was like, you are, oh. And she was like, it feels good or whatever. And he was like, it's all right. And so then Bert and Ray come over, and she's going to go into witness protection with Bert because she was like, no one's been like, he treated me better in a few hours of knowing him than other people all my life. And so she's going to go in witness protection with him, and they found a relationship out of all of this. And so hearing that and hearing that they're going to be, safe and everything, Jacob was like, all right, it feels good helping out or whatever. And so Queen gave, I'm sorry, y'all. Robin gave him gave him her card and told him, if you ever need anything, hit me up. I'll, just let me know. And he was like, okay. So then Robin goes home, and Aunt Vi and Dee tell her how they beat the cheaters at the game, and how strong they how competitive they are, and they don't like to lose or whatever. And so then they're like, okay, let's play a game of cards then. And so it just ended with them cracking each other up, just teasing each other on who was the better card player and all that kind of stuff, and or talking about who's going to pay for the food they're going to order and all that. So this was a really good episode, y'all. I have to give it like a 7.58 because it was really good, and the action was just, and it was interesting, and every scene I was like, okay, what's going to happen next, so it was a really good episode. I'm looking forward to next week. Because not Dante, you're not about to do this to Dante, especially with his boys around. So yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. But that was the Equalizer, y'all. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Bye.